Good afternoon, students. So now we are in week 3. So this week, all you have to do is the week 3 forum where you play the food game, and then you have to do the week 3 quiz. And in order to prepare for the week 3 quiz, all you have to do is study the week 2 instructor session Zoom recording. And in that week 2 instructor session Zoom recording, and that's where I go over and prep you for the week 3 quiz. And for this week, I'm going to go over what is peer review, because in the next few forums, as you go through forum 4 through 12, we will be peer reviewing each other's papers. And so in the next forum, we're going to peer review the rough draft of your essay, so in preparation for your week 4 rough draft. So next week, the week 4 forum will include, you will already have done your week 2, which is pre-writing the outline. Then in week 4, you're going to start writing out your rough draft into a 5-paragraph essay structure, where you're going to have, for your introduction, you're going to have your five background sentences, the hook, 5 background sentences. Then you're going to have your thesis statement as the last sentence of the first paragraph. And then the 3 reasons of your thesis statement will then become your body paragraphs. And so you're going to write out your 5-paragraph essay into your week 4 forum, and then we're going to look over each other's papers, and you're going to comment on how each student can improve their paper. And so when I grade your forums, I will be grading you on how well you can spot other people's essay structure errors or grammar errors. Now, you don't have to be an expert at spotting these errors, but I want to see that you're trying to do so. So we're going to go over how you spot other people's errors and how to do a peer review forum so that you can get a good grade on your future discussion posts for week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the remaining forums. So the fun part about peer review is that you get to improve each other's writing, and then we work as a team. So you can take tips from the Zooms, you can take tips from your writing tips from your reading, and you need to make some kind of an effort to actually try to improve someone else's paper, and not just say, I agree with your topic or I disagree with your topic, and that sort of thing. So so even if English is not your first language, you can still say something about someone else's paper to help them improve their paper. So Trishana, I just want to say hello to you and welcome to today's lecture. And
Hello.
Hey, so how are you doing in the class so far?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. And if you have any questions, we can always open this up and we can ask the questions. I could turn off the recording and then we can get into whatever questions you have for the class, or if you want to work on your paper, that sort of thing. So right now you're being recorded, so just so you know. And so I will start today's peer review forum, today's lesson. So you ready for the lesson?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Okay, so here is
Thank you.
today's peer review lesson. And so I will put it as a slideshow. So let's see, slideshow from beginning. There we go. So what is peer review? So here I was playing around with the graphics, as you could tell. I was having a lot of fun doing that. So it's here. So today we're going to cover the purpose of peer review, the benefits of peer review, constructive criticism, how to receive feedback, how to give feedback, peer review forum, and peer review in the real world. Many students have trouble with the peer review forums. In this presentation, I define what peer review is, I talk about the importance of peer review, and I give students templates of model peer review reviews that they can follow. So in your week 4, 5, and 6 forum, you're going to post the rough draft of your narrative essay, And in week 4, we're going to do the rough draft. Week 5, so we're just going to peer review, and we will go over the essay structure, the thesis statement, the body structure, essay structure, and then I will give you teacher feedback as well, and then you will incorporate all of this feedback into your week 6 final draft, which will count as your midterm grade. Many students worry that they are not strong writers to give constructive feedback, or that they may hurt other students' feelings. But being positive and open about the peer review process makes peer review a fun activity. So you want to provide the best feedback that you can. You don't have to be a professional writer. So let's look at ways in which we can do peer review. So the writing process. There are 3 stages to the writing process. Pre-writing, which was week 2, when we came up with our essay topic and wrote our outline. And then week 4 is writing, where you transform your outline into the 5-paragraph essay structure, which is what you're going to be doing in week 4. Rewriting, where you rewrite your rough draft based on the corrections from teacher feedback and hand in your final draft. That's week 5 and 6. So writing is week 4. Rewriting would be weeks 5 and 6. So pre-writing. So in pre-writing stage of the writing process, you posted an outline of your week 1 essay in your week 2 assignment. Then in week 5, you're going to transform your outline into a 5-paragraph essay structure. And then in week 6, you will rewrite your entire rough draft based on teacher feedback that you get from me. So what is a peer review? A peer review is when you review another student paper to give it feedback so that your classmate could get a better grade, writing grade. A peer review is also when others review your paper and give you feedback so that you can get a better writing grade. A peer review is when one worker reviews another worker's job performance, and a peer review is when your boss reviews your job. So different kinds of feedback. So you're going to have different kinds of feedback. So when you give feedback to other students, you can give something what's called appreciation feedback. So in appreciation feedback, you tell the other student, Denisha, you did a great job on your paper. You are so good at. So focus on the positive aspects of someone's paper. Or your paper shows great writing because you correctly placed your thesis, and your thesis makes so much sense to me. Your 3 reasons match your topic sentences perfectly. So I love your topic, and I was about to choose the same topic myself. So the first kind of feedback you're going to give is called appreciation feedback. The second kind of feedback you're going to give is something called mentoring feedback. In other words, asking for help. Mentoring feedback focuses on helping someone asking for help. You mentor students by answering student questions who need your help. So when you write your rough draft, don't be afraid to reach out to others to ask for help. So you can ask, I don't know how to do my APA. Can anyone out there help me? Or I don't know how to write a really good thesis statement. Can anybody out there help me? And so when you reach out to other students and other students help answer your questions, that's known as mentoring feedback. So you could type in something, after you type in your rough draft, then at the very bottom of your rough draft, you could say to everybody, well, can anybody help me with, I can't find good sources for my paper. Anyone know how to do APA? Or Professor H, how do I use a database in the library? Or what is the difference between Google and Google Scholar? So at the end of your rough draft, also post a few questions for other students to answer. So then you post, what is it that's your weaknesses? What is it you want other students to help you with? So after you write your rough draft, also post some questions of what you want other people to help you with. Like if you're weak in your thesis statement, you can ask others. You would say, I'm weak in my thesis statement. Can anybody help me? And so when you post to 2 students and you answer the other people's questions, that's known as mentoring feedback. So when we mentor each other, we're working as a team. We motivate each other, where weaker writers learn from stronger writers, and we support each other and coach each other. So think of peer review as a team sport. Coaching feedback is the most common feedback. That means that you take a look at someone's paper and you give suggestions on how somebody can improve their paper, such as your thesis statement is pretty weak. You need to put in 3 reasons. or your topic sentences don't match your thesis statement. So that's known as coaching feedback, because you're giving suggestions on how students can improve their writing. And so in writing peer review, you don't have to be a grammar expert to give other students suggestions on how they can improve their paper. Don't be afraid to stick out your neck to help another student. Nobody will laugh at your remarks. Pointing out grammar mistakes will not offend anyone, as long as we all understand that we are correcting the paper, not the student. And so you're not the one giving out the grades. You're just simply coaching everyone so that they have a better paper. And so I will be grading you your discussion forum post on how well you do coaching. So basically, mainly you'll be doing coaching feedback. So that's another kind of feedback you'll be graded on. It's my job to give you evaluation feedback. I'm the one that's going to give you the final grade once you turn in your rough draft in week 4 and once you turn in your final draft in week 6. So it's my job to give you evaluation feedback. So as students, you don't have to worry about grading other people. You just simply give people coaching feedback so that they can improve their paper and improve their final grade. And so evaluation feedback is when the teacher gives a grade on the final paper or gives a grade on your rough draft. So this is the only kind of feedback that students are not involved with. So after your paper has gone through the peer review process, where you have included all of my teacher feedback and student feedback into your final draft, this is week 6, I then will evaluate your final draft one more time and give you a grade on your paper. So in the peer review forums, you will not be grading or evaluating other people's papers. That's my job to do that. And since you are not the one grading the papers, there is no need to fear the peer review forum or fear giving everybody suggestions. So think of this as teamwork. We're all one team trying to help each other get good grades. Peer review allows students to clarify their own ideas as they explain them to classmates and as they formulate questions about their classmates' writing. This is helpful to writers at all skill levels, in all classes, at all stages of the writing process. And so as you give peer review to other people, you are also reinforcing your knowledge of the writing process and of your own knowledge of the essay structure. As you look over your paper, then you need to incorporate this feedback that you're going to get from other students. And so since other students are going to be using your feedback to improve their grade, then you need to make an effort to try to say something about their essay structure, how they can improve their essay structure, and how they can improve their punctuation or APA. And so don't just simply say, I agree with you. Then you're going to get a low grade if all you say is, I agree with you. So you want to build student investment in writing. Peer review builds student investment in writing and helps students understand the relationship between their writing and their coursework in ways that undergraduates sometimes overlook. Peer review forces students to engage with writing and encourages the self-reflexivity that fosters critical thinking skills. And so if you become good at giving, and so when you give peer review, you're giving actionable suggestions. So don't just simply say, Donna, you have a great paper. Donna's waiting for you to tell her, well, how exactly can I improve my paper? So you want to tell the student, okay, your paper needs to improve X, Y, and Z. So that way, if you make the effort to help other students with their paper, they will make the effort to help you with your paper. As my mother used to say, it's a two-way street, except she used to say it all the time. So it's teamwork. So making the writing process a more collaborative activity. That's what peer review does, because it gives students the opportunity to interact with each other, help each other in their writing. And so by assessing whether or not individual student examples meet the requirements, students are forced to focus on goals instead of getting distracted by grammar and mechanics or by their own. So basically, when you look at other people's papers, first look at the essay structure. Does the student have a good thesis statement? Is this thesis statement placed as the last sentence of the first paragraph, the first sentence of the last paragraph? Does the thesis statement state the main idea of the paper? And then does the thesis statement have 3 reasons? And then do those 3 reasons match your topic sentence? So if that student has overall really good essay structure, and you're saying, okay, Donna has really good essay structure. After you ascertain they have good essay structure, then the next thing you do is look at APA and grammar. So you always want to look at someone's overall essay structure first to make sure the whole thing makes sense. This is known as revision. So there are 2 stages to the post-writing stage. Remember, there are 3 stages to your writing process. And so when you do revision or peer review, you first look at the essay structure, that's known as revision, and then after the essay structure is good, then you check for punctuation, grammar, and APA. That's known as proofreading. So we always look at the grammar and APA last. And we learn from each other, where stronger writers help weaker writers learn. And we all learn from each other. And peer review allows students to clarify their own ideas as they explain them to classmates and as they formulate questions about their classmates' writing. What I mean by that is that you can ask students, after you write your rough draft, just ask people what all your doubts are. In other words, what doubts do you have about your paper? If you wrote your paper, but then you're not sure your essay structure is very solid, you can actually ask questions. Can everyone look over my essay structure? Or, I'm not very sure if paragraph 2 makes any sense. Or, what is the main idea of my essay? Do I have a central idea in my essay? Can everyone understand what I'm talking about? So you can have about 5 or 6 questions at the end of your rough draft where you address your sincere doubts about your paper. So that way when people look at your paper, they know what to look for. They know what it is your doubts are, so they know how to help you. So that's known as mentoring feedback, where you're asking for help. And then when someone answers your questions, that's known as coaching feedback. Does that make sense, Trishana, so far? Oh, I'll take that to mean yes.
Yes, besides the AP, I'm confused about that. The APA format, how can I write it in that? Because I was writing about why did I become a nurse.
Exactly. So basically, if you just double space your paper, and then I believe that there is an APA template that comes with the assignment. If you click on the template and then you start typing into the template, then it will automatically double space your paper. If you don't know how to double space your paper, all you do is select all.
Oh, okay, so it's not like the APA format that I'm doing in the other class where it's like you have to get resources, out resources.
Yes, that's for the second essay. You'll be doing that, but for the first essay, you're just learning essay structure. So this essay 1 is focused on essay structure and then writing it in double space. Essay number 2 and 3 will focus on APA, with the difference between an in-text citation and a reference citation. And also, Trishana, if you have questions and you need to learn APA now for your other classes, you can also ask questions about APA now at the end of this lecture, and I could, for instance, you would say, my chemistry teacher wants us to write sources for such and such, and then I will go over that with you, which is what I did with my other class. Students had trouble with some chemistry, writing about an enzyme, describing an enzyme or something, protein. I forget what it was, and they had to find sources for that. So I can go over that with you at the end of the lecture if you have questions about how to do APA and you need to know it now and you can't wait until the second half of the class. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. That's how I learned how to, I think I have that too, my other classes. I wrote a sample science paper for them so they could look at it so they know how to describe a protein for their chemistry class. So anyway, so peer review, well, that's what we were doing, right? Peer review allows students to clarify their own ideas as they explain them to classmates and as they formulate questions about their classmates' writing. This is helpful to writers at all skill levels in other words, when you look over other people's papers, you reinforce your own writing skills. And also peer review provides professional experience for students having their writing reviewed. Peer review is the process by which professionals in the field publish It's how managers and coworkers provide feedback in the workplace, and it's a skill with practical application. So when you do peer review, you learn the art of giving constructive criticism. You learn the art of giving actionable suggestions. You learn the art of, because anytime you review anything, if you're going to give someone a job review, you can't just say, Joe, you're doing a great job, or Jan, you're doing a lousy job. That doesn't really help that person either improve or improve their job performance. So when you give a job review, you have to tell that person, when you talk in an oral presentation, you have an annoying habit of saying, at the end of every sentence, and it drives the entire team crazy. So from now on, Susan, knock out the at the end of all your sentences, and you will knock it out of the field when you do your oral presentation. So that is an example of an actionable suggestion. So when you do any kind of job review, so that's what this peer review, if you want to think about how will I use this skill in the workplace, it means that you don't just go around telling people you're doing a lousy job or a good job. Imagine if all I did in my teacher feedback, I give you an F and I say, you're doing a lousy job, and I just sit back and that's it. How are you going to know how to improve your grade? And then you're going to say, but teacher, how can I get an A if you don't give me any feedback? You don't give me actionable suggestions. So then when you look at the kind of feedback that I give you, you're missing your thesis statement, or your topic sentences do not match your thesis statement, or you're missing your entire, whatever it is that you're doing wrong. So that's the art of peer review, is the art of being able to formulate those actionable suggestions. And so the first kind, first we're going to do what I call a sandwich method. So first you give that person an appreciation. First you talk about something positive about what it is you're reading. So that's called appreciation feedback. So I guess that, and then you coach them. Areas of improvement, and then you give something positive. Positive, areas of improvement, positive. That's known as the sandwich feedback. That's what all the teachers do. So that way the person who's getting the feedback doesn't think that everything is wrong with their paper. So that's how we sandwich what they call how to give bad news in the office setting. And so Trishana, what are the benefits of doing a peer review? Why is peer review a good idea?
I think it's a good idea because the simple fact you can grow in your essay skills from people telling you you're wrong.
Yes, and don't be afraid to tell other people what they do wrong, because sometimes people just simply chat in the forum, in the peer review forum, and they end up with a low grade. And I said, no, peer review means you have to find what's wrong with the other person's paper, not just simply chit chat about, oh, me too, John, I also think gun control is not very good because in this society everybody has too many guns. Okay, that's okay if you're in the cafeteria, in your ungraded forum and yak, yak, yak. But in your peer review, I need to see that you're actively trying to correct something about someone else's paper. So don't worry if you are not a good writer. You do not have to be a good writer to do peer review. Even if you feel you are weak in English, you can still tell other people how they can improve their writing. After all, we're not actors, we're not professionals in movies, yet we're telling everybody this is a lousy movie and this is a lousy. So do you have a degree in film studies? So why can't we critique other student papers? We all have an opinion, right? Especially in this country. So as long as you have an opinion, you could give that opinion, as long as you tell them what to do, of course. And you make it and you word it in a positive manner. You don't say, "Hey, John, what are you, some kind of idiot?" Nobody would write like that. Would you talk like that? Yes. So that would be, so do it with respect. So peer review does not require you to be a good writer. It just requires you to have an opinion. And don't worry if you think that your English grammar stinks. All the other students are in the same boat. They just don't tell you. They don't want to show you, you see. So if you don't see any grammar mistakes or you feel you are weak in grammar, then just comment on essay structure instead. You are not doing the teacher's job. You are helping your peers get a better writing grade. So I've had students say, well, that's the teacher's job. Yes, it's the teacher's job to give the grade. It's your job to help with suggestions. So some people are afraid of offending their classmates. And I said, no, as long as you do it in a respectful manner. It's just like at your job. When you have a junior worker, do you tell your junior worker, oh my God, you're such a numbskull, you're an idiot. I can't believe that on your first day of job you're doing it like that? Or do you just politely tell them, this is how we do things at this office or hospital? Which way do you do it, Trishana, when you see a junior worker?
I politely do it.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't believe how some
people tell someone what's going on.
Have you ever had someone who rudely tells you what to do?
Yes, before in a job.
And why do you think they're rude?
Probably because they don't know, or they're just the mean, cool person.
Yeah, some people
I feel because there's always a better way to say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. And so you want to do it graciously and then make actionable suggestions. So when you do have an opinion, then you back that up with telling that person areas of improvement of how they can improve, or what they can do to improve whatever it is that you see that's wrong. And so that's a good skill to have. And in all the years I've been teaching writing, no student has ever laughed at another student's peer review. It's only everyone's just afraid of hurting everyone else's feelings. So what are the misconceptions or misperceptions of peer review? Do you have to be good at writing or grammar to give a peer review?
No.
No. Are you afraid of giving a peer review?
A tad bit, because I don't feel I'm a real good writer, but not as an afraid as in like hurting someone, but like maybe afraid because I might think it's a good paper, but in your eyes you might feel that things need to be changed. I might only notice like the grammar and the commas and the periods, but I might not actually notice something that you notice.
Yeah, you could also put someone else's paper through Grammarly and take a look to see what Grammarly has to say about the grammar. If you're unsure, you could also use Grammarly.
Oh, I didn't know nothing about Grammarly.
Yeah, Grammarly, I use the free version of Grammarly, and you can get the free version of Grammarly and upload your own paper, and it will show you better sentence structure, it will show you better punctuation, so you could do the same with someone else's paper, and then tell them, well, when I put your paper through Grammarly, these were the mistakes Grammarly found. That way you don't have to feel like, well, obviously I don't know any grammar, but Grammarly knows grammar. After all, that's the name of the app, right? So that's another way of doing it. So that way, and of course you yourself can, and there's Quillbot, Grammarly, even ChatGPT helps you. You could type into ChatGPT, what grammar mistakes are in this person's essay or something like that, and then it will tell you. So anyway, are you easily offended if someone corrects your mistakes? I've had students who said, what? How dare you correct, saying it to me, of course, saying, how dare you correct?
I'm not offended by it because I feel that if you always have more room to grow, and English isn't my strongest suit, I would say, from like even some of my pre-drafts and something, that's why I did write my, in the discussion I wrote how I used to take time, like 2-3 days before, just to free-write something and then go back through and actually edit some of the words that I'm using, because sometimes, you just talk the way you write, and I talk a little plain, so it's like,
my roommate was that way. She was from Korea, and she wrote the way she talked, but that also meant including her Korean accent into what she wrote. So she would write, I come from Korea. So the letter A would then end up in her writing, and then the teacher always had to take out, you cannot write literally, but because she was sounding out the words, and then they're just spelling it, and in her mind, I come from Korea. I guess in Korean you do that, but in English you don't. So she had to learn through college not to write the way she talked. That's how I started teaching ESL, was my roommates. Unlike everybody else, I was born and raised in the United States, and for me English was really easy. And so other people would show me their papers, and then I would just grade it. Not grade it. In those days, I wasn't a teacher. I would just edit it for them, or rewrite it for them. In just a half an hour, I had a brand new paper all rewritten. They would write the main thing, and then I would rewrite it so it doesn't sound so Korean, so it sounds American. That's how I got into actually teaching English, is because the entire dorm room, then she got an A, then she told her friends about it, and before I knew it, everyone was lining up because they wanted A, because English, and the opposite, I hated math. They were really good at math, so I let them help me with my math homework, and I helped them with their English homework. So it was kind of a trade. Everybody ended up with an A, so that was what was important. Anyway, so I'm talking too much. Yeah, so how to give feedback. And here, remember, your feedback are just suggestions. So you're going to be doing something called constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is a helpful way of giving feedback and provides specific, actionable suggestions. Rather than providing general advice, constructive feedback, constructive criticism gives specific recommendations on how to make positive improvements. Constructive criticism is clear, to the point, and easy to put into action. So another name for constructive criticism is actionable suggestions. And so that way you want to do the feedback sandwich, something positive, areas of improvement, then positive. Then you want to be specific, stick to actionable points, and recommend, don't assume. So you don't have to be an expert to do it, just give actionable suggestions on how other people can correct their papers. You can comment on the topic, and here are what you can look for when you comment on essay structure. Are all his paragraphs 5 to 7 sentences long? Does he have the 3 parts of an essay, introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and 1 conclusion? Does he have 1 central idea backed up by supporting paragraphs? Is his thesis correctly placed as the last sentence of the first paragraph? Does his thesis have 3 reasons? Do his body paragraphs relate back to the thesis? Does his conclusion restate the thesis and summarize the essay? Does the introduction contain a hook, bridge, and then the thesis, or did the student simply state the thesis in his intro? Do the subpoints in the body paragraphs relate back to the topic sentences? And did the writer restate the thesis as the first sentence of the last paragraph? Ask yourself these questions as you look over someone's paper. What is the essay about? Does the essay make sense? How can you improve the essay so that it makes more sense? Are there any APA errors? And this of course for essay 2 and 3. Does the student include APA citations? Does the student include correct APA citations and correct reference citations? How can the student make the paper more exciting? Are there any grammar or punctuation mistakes? And so tell students, so now I'm getting into the sandwich. In other words, you tell the students what they did right, you give them encouragement, instill confidence, be kind and courteous, okay? And that's it. So do you understand how to do a peer review? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just trying to, how to receive feedback. And so some people are very negative about it. And so in this section, I'm teaching you to be a good sport. When someone critiques your work or gives you feedback, just be in good spirits and realize that everybody is here to help. You don't have to take the feedback personally. Remember, we are correcting the paper, not you. Receive the feedback with a spirit of fun. Stay positive. Always be positive. Give yourself an A for effort. So we all get low grades or get fired, and these are all negative events that happen to all of us beyond our control. But it is how we respond or react to these events that matter. Even if you get a low grade, or pick yourself up and start over again. Try hard. Give yourself an A for effort. For it is the second score of A for effort that counts in life. That actually comes from a book. Thanks for the feedback. So give yourself, in other words, there are adversities in life, but it's how you react to adversity that determines your character. I do believe that's attributed to Martin Luther King. Second score wins. So it is not the first score of F or the negative comments that others give you that count in life. It is the second score of A for effort that you give yourself that counts. It is how we respond to adversity, bad news, problems, obstacles that define our character, our integrity, and our inner strength. And I think Martin Luther King said that it is when we are tested, it is when we go through obstacles that we really show our true character, our true integrity. It's not when everything is going good for you. And I think he got that off of Job in the Bible. People who respond well or positively to obstacles in life or negative feedback, or people who bounce back quickly from adversity live longer, happier lives. So in this life, the first score of F does not count. And this is easier said than done. And it's said over and over again in the Bible as well. So I am teaching at another school that, that's Christian, so I would do that. So anyway, overcoming adversity. So give yourself that second score. And I think that Martin Luther King, in his sermons, says it so much better. I'm going to have to look that up. So basically, do not be offended and have fun with the peer review process and have fun working together. Nobody is trying to attack you. Nobody is going to laugh at your paper. We are all in this together. I kind of like this one. And then think of the forum as a coaching or a tutoring session. And think of the peer review not something to dread. And think of it as a coaching session. You can ask, where you can reach out to other students and ask them all your fears and doubts and have people help you assuage those fears and doubts. And think of it as a way to improve your grade. So now, do you feel better about doing a peer review? And do you feel better about receiving feedback from me and your peers?
Yes.
Okay. So this is for some of the students who are very, very sensitive to criticism. Trust me, I've seen students like that. I had one student tell me, well, you see, I'm a published writer. How dare you point out my mistakes? Or something like that. And then the other students are saying, well, Sydney, the only reason why you're in this class with us is because just like the rest of us, you flunked the writing test. So therefore, she needs to give you ways to improve your grade because she's the teacher. The other people did not agree. They all ganged up on him in the forums. And when he said, how dare you do the mistakes? And everyone was saying, oh, well, Sydney, you're never going to grow if you don't listen to the teacher correcting your mistakes. That's the whole purpose of this class. We're all in here because we all flunked the writing test. Because at the other school I taught, if you take a writing test and you don't pass the writing test, then you've got to take English 101. So that's why they were all saying, well, if you flunk like we did, you can't be that great at your published writing. That was what they were all saying. And then I had to tone them down, because they were all picking on the one student. So that's kind of like netiquette. So we have to all behave ourselves in the forums, and we have to not, bash someone just because they say something, So we have to agree to disagree. This also goes for when we start doing the persuasive essays. Back during the pandemic, some people felt very strongly about not getting the vaccine. Others felt strongly, you have to get that vaccine. And it was politicized out of crazy, it was politicized like crazy. So I had to tell people to calm down, tone it down, and agree to disagree. If people write something completely opposite of what you wrote, you just respect that opinion, just like that person respects. So everyone's got to treat each other with more respect, you see. And so your peer review offers no criticism of your writing. Vague terms like, that's a good paper. Instead, it's not good enough. That's ineffective feedback. So ineffective feedback is when you say, oh yeah, this paper is interesting. It's quite informative. Or this paper sucks and it was boring. So that doesn't tell the student why it's boring or why it sucks. So effective feedback would be, first, the essay introduced the challenge of your birth defect and how you have to cope with it. But in the next part, you need to argue your point. You need a counter argument. You need to rebut the other side. If you can rebut the other side in your paper, then you will have a stronger argument. So there you're telling the student to stick in a counter argument and rebuttal paragraph, which you'll learn later how to do, into your essay in order to strengthen your persuasive essay. Or you could say, your thesis statement is missing its reasons. You need to stick in better reasons, because to have an effective thesis statement, you have to have topic, opinion, reasons. If you're missing the reasons, then the thesis statement becomes too vague. And so therefore you could tell the student, you have a vague thesis statement and you need to put in 3 reasons to tell why. Because whenever we write an essay, we're making a claim and then we want to back up that claim with credible evidence. That's the whole art of why we write an essay, because essays are nonfiction. This is not creative writing. In this class, we're learning how to write nonfiction. We're learning how to write essays. If you want to write a story, that's fiction, versus an essay, which is nonfiction. And actually, creative writing stories can be fiction or nonfiction, but but academic research essays are always nonfiction. That's how we differentiate it from the fiction that you read when you go home and you want to relax with a book. That when we write the academic research essays, it's always nonfiction. Okay, and because of that, it can't be something you just make up in your imagination. And that's why you have to back it up with credible sources, and not Wikipedia, and for the most part, not ChatGPT either. And if you ask ChatGPT, can you give me some sources for my paper? Well, ChatGPT sometimes hallucinates and will make it up off the top of its head, okay? Then you can Google ChatGPT hallucinations. So yeah, so basically you have to, if you get information from ChatGPT, you have to make sure that source exists. You got to make sure the ChatGPT didn't just imagine the source, okay? So that's why even if you use ChatGPT, you still have to double check to make sure that ChatGPT got all of the facts correct, okay? So yes, ChatGPT is good for brainstorming, okay? It's very good for brainstorming. If you don't have any ideas and you're stuck, and you can ChatGPT it, and it will give you a lot of starting points. Just like Wikipedia actually is good for that as well. But you can't use it as a source, as your only source. So that's what Wikipedia and ChatGPT have in common. It's always better to get scholarly sources from Google Scholar or from Fortis Online Library. We'll be covering all of that in the second half of the class as you start doing, but since your chemistry teachers want you to look up credible sources now, then I'm telling you, Google Scholar and Fortis Online Library. Anything else, you run the risk of having your teacher's going to give you a big fat X and say that's not a scholarly source. That's incorrect. So you always want to do Google Scholar. And then we'll go over why later. Does that make sense? Google Scholar. Have you ever tried Google Scholar before? Well, I figure you have. Yeah? Have you tried Google Scholar? Yeah. But the thing about Google Scholar is it will not allow you to open all of the articles. Whereas if you use your Fortis Online Library and they pay a subscription, they have full access to all of the articles. So that's the only difference. They both access the same scholarly articles, but Google Scholar, since you're not paying for it, it will give you only the abstracts, but the Fortis Online Library will give you the full article. So that's the only difference. Okay, but it's still a good source. And then ineffective feedback. You really need to fix that opening. What were you thinking? Effective feedback. Let's look closely at the opening. Could you rewrite the first sentence so that it grabs the reader's attention? Also, I'm somewhat confused by the thesis statement. Can you rephrase it? So you can ask students, can you redo your thesis statement and that sort of thing. Another model peer review post. John, you have a great topic. I agree that guns are unnecessary. But you do not have 3 reasons in your thesis. You need to place your thesis as the last sentence of the first paragraph. But the strengths of your essay is I love how descriptive you are in your body paragraphs. Great job. So that's a model peer review. Jackie, you write so much better than I do, but English is not my native language, so I don't know how much I can help you, but you have much better sentence structure than I do, and you definitely use a lot of transition words. So this is somebody who doesn't speak English, and if she can think of something to say to improve someone's paper, then so therefore all of you native speakers, it should be like simple. So Jack, you are missing your in-text citations. This is for your the second essay. Professor H says that when you cite medical facts, you have to cite the source to avoid plagiarism, and you are missing quotation marks around your direct quotes. Your paraphrase quote does not need page numbers. However, you have a great thesis statement and you follow the thesis formula of topic, opinion, and reason, and your body paragraphs support your thesis. You have great essay coherence. Lamika, you need to double space your paper. Why is your font bigger in one paragraph and smaller in another paragraph? All your font has to be the same size. And like you, I too am weak at APA, but I found a great website like www.apa.org to be a great source to help me format my paper. You can also go to that website to buy the APA manual as well, because that is the official source of all things APA. So your feedback matters. Riri, you need to rewrite your thesis as the first sentence of the last paragraph in your conclusion paragraph. And your paragraph is too long. Each paragraph needs to have 5 to 7 sentences, like Professor H says. Like you, Riri, sometimes I too write too much, and it is hard to cut down on what I write. Erica, you are missing one paragraph from this assignment. You're supposed to have 5 paragraphs. You need to have 3 reasons, and then those 3 reasons become your 3 body paragraphs. However, I do love your thesis statement. I'm not a good writer. My English teacher said that my papers are terrible, so I don't know how much I can help you. But to me, your paper sounds good. Your paper makes sense to me, and I understand the main idea of your paper. I agree that teachers should not have guns in the classroom, but you have great sounding reasons. I notice you don't have any sources in your assignment, and for essay 2, we all need to have at least 1 APA in-text citation and 1 reference citation. Mona, you have a great paper, but you do not have any sources for your in-text citations. Where did you get the information from? Professor H says that we have to have a list of sources at the end of our paper. I too am working on my sources, and I use Google Scholar for my, I forgot to put in the Scholar, for my articles. And then Maria, your reference citation is only a website. A lot of people just put in the website address as their reference citation. You need to put in the entire reference citation when you at the bottom of your post. This is for your persuasive essay. And so if you have to put in the author name, the date, article name, then you have to put in the publication name, the date you retrieved the website, and then you have your web address. So that's your reference citation. That you have to know for now, because that's what you're going to do for your chemistry class when you describe your protein or something like that. Anyway, so getting back to your model peer review. Maria, your reference citation is missing parts. Professor H says that the reference citation needs, and I just read that, you cannot just have only a web address for your reference citation. And I looked up some APA reference citation at the Purdue Owl Library. You should check that out. The rest of your paper looks great, and your body paragraph has, and you could go to Purdue Owl Library. If you get stuck on how to do a reference citation, you can go to the Purdue Owl Library, and it has everything, APA and everything. Charnice, your body paragraphs do not relate back to your thesis. You are writing about many different things with no relation to each other, and your paper does not make sense. I can't tell if you are for or against abortion. What is your paper about? You need to state your position. You're either for it or against it. Then you use your body paragraphs to back up why you are for or against a position. So you can, and I think you should go to Professor H, and you need to schedule a one-on-one Zoom with her, because your paper is all over the place. Christina, you are using too many statistics in a row. Professor H says that we can only use 1 in-text citation per paragraph. She taught us about pie structure, and you have to watch her pie structure video in the announcements. And also on my Professor H writing channel, just type in pie structure video in the search engine, and it will show you pie structure. What is pie structure? P is the main point from the thesis. 1I is the in-text citation, and then E is 5 sentences that explains that in-text citation. And I explain that very well in the video. And so that way you don't overwhelm people with this statistic, that statistic, that statistic, all over. You just use one statistic and then just explain what that statistic means in 5 sentences. And then that becomes your entire body paragraph. So that is how we use statistics, so that we have a lot of original thinking in our paper. And even when you paraphrase and put it into your own words, you still have to cite the source. Okay, so model peer review. I see no mistakes in your paper, Latanya. You have a great thesis. I agree that everyone should get vaccinated against COVID-19, but I am worried about these variants. You use great reasons too, Latanya, about why people should get vaccinated so that they can stop COVID. And if everyone gets vaccinated, we can get herd immunity. Your reasons are just like your thesis. Just like Professor H wants, I think your paper is perfect. Now it gets kind of dated when we talk about COVID-19. So you can also ask other students for help. If you are stuck on a source, you can ask other students to help you find the source. If you are stuck on your thesis, you can ask other students for a better thesis. So you can write, I can't come up with a good thesis. Can anybody help me out? Or I can't find sources for my paper. Can anybody help me find a source? So did these model peer reviews help you get an idea of what your peer review posts will look like? Kind of a yes or no answer. Was it helpful?
Yes.
Do you think you can come up with peer review responses just like it?
Yes,
I feel I should be able to do something like that.
Oh, even if you just see something missing, like, wow, you came up with a lot of medical facts, but where are your in-text citations to back it up? So when you use medical facts, any kind of number, statistics, percentages.
Okay, so that's another thing I was going to ask, so you kind of cleared it up. Because like I said, the APA format for me needs basing something on why did I become a nurse, so I can't use like the having a supportive family to help me, and I can get research.
Well, you know, let me do it this way. When you write your narrative essay, it's up to you. The first essay, it's voluntary. It's up to you. If you want to put in and you want to practice APA in your narrative essay, you can, okay? And that means that if you want to write the advantages, for example, I would say 95% of nursing students claim that there are many advantages to nursing because nursing provides a stable job for whatever. So, but the fact that
I can use something like that.
Yes, if you
Like basically, if I didn't want to use APA format, I didn't have to.
You have to use for essay 1. I'm saying essay 1. When I say APA formatting, that also means you double space your paper, you indent 5 lines, the first line of every paragraph, you use Roman Times New Roman font, and that sort of thing. So that's also considered APA formatting. And then you have the APA in-text citation and APA reference citation on top of that. Does that make sense? And when I teach APA, I say any kind of numerical, percentages, medical, statistical, historical, scientific facts all have to be in-text citation. And also no longer than 3 lines. I don't want an entire, if you're going to have an entire paragraph, then you end up with something called a block quotation, okay? And so sometimes teachers don't want a lot of block quotations because what happens is then it interrupts the flow of your essay. And so I prefer that you learn to integrate your in-text citations using signal phrases. You can Google that. Because when you use a signal phrase, it signals to the reader that you're about to give a citation. So a signal phrase would be like, Dr. Smith claims that. Then you put in quotation marks, whatever it is, 95% of so and so. And then at the end, you put the date and you put the page number, the date and the page number. Okay? So that would be an entire in-text citation. You don't need to put your web address in the middle of your paper. So that when you do your in-text citations, that goes inside the body of your paper, so it tells the reader, where did you get that number from? Did you just make it up off the top of your head? So that proves to the reader that you actually got it from somewhere, and that way if the reader herself wants to do more research, she could go look it up herself, that same article. Then, at the end of your paper, after the last page, that's where you write the reference citation. And I'll go over that. So I'm just about finished with this, and then that's it. And so I'm just going to go over, first you post what you're going to do. So first you're going to post your rough draft, and then you're going to go over make the peer reviews. Then you're going to include all of the feedback from the peer reviews into your final draft. And then I tell students that they have to correct their paper. If they don't include the corrections and they just keep handing in the same thing over and over again, they'll get lower and lower and lower grade, you see. So by the time, since I'm going to be reading the same essay so many times, I will have memorized someone's essay, so I will be able to tell right away if you bothered to even fix it. Some people just never bother to fix it, and they just hand in the same mistakes over and over again. So the first time the grade would be like a 75. The second time they hand in the same paper, it becomes a 65. By the time it gets to the final grade, the final draft, it's gone down to 55. So you don't want to end up like that. So you want to keep revising the paper and make it better. So for the whole purpose of a writing process is with each successive draft, each time you do it and hand it in, your paper gets better and better and better. So that's why we use the writing process. And did you know that Ernest Hemingway, he was a famous writer, for each chapter of his book, he revised it 29 times, 29 different drafts for a 12-chapter book. Now you can do the math, 200 drafts for his book. So that's too much. My students can barely, like 3 of them, and they're like, that's enough. So don't just post the same one over and over again. And so make sure that you, after you do your 3 posts, make sure you check back in the forum to see what feedback people left for you. That's why at the end of the week, you got to go back to the peer review forum to see what feedback I left for you or other people left for you, and then you stick that into your final draft, and then that's it. Okay, so that pretty much goes over the steps of the peer review, and I will let you read peer review in the real world by yourself, and that will be it. So what were the and so that ends the recording for this week's questions on what is peer review. I will send everyone this peer review PowerPoint, and I will put that in everybody's emails, or I will put it in announcements. Actually, I can't seem to so I will put this in the announcements, and then you can then have the PowerPoint that way. It seems as if I can't seem to attach anything to emails these days. So I will put this entire thing into the announcements. That is the PowerPoint, so you could look at it later and read the part about peer review in the real world, which is Amazon. You know, when you read everyone's comments on this is a lousy product. Some people even post their photos. Have you ever gone to Amazon and looked at other people's reviews before you decide to buy a product?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's one example, very easy example of peer review in the real world, and then you can read it later. So let me get out of here. So if any of you have any questions about how to do peer review, and remember, if you don't write how people can improve each other's papers, you will get a low discussion forum grade. So I expect to see posts similar to the model peer reviews that I gave in this Zoom.